Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar entitled Women in Legislative Leadership, Challenges and Opportunities with the America-Israel Friendship League. My name is Naomi Reinhardt. I'm the Chief Development Officer of AIFL, and I'm delighted to be with you all today. We are celebrating International Women's Day a couple days early. It will be this Tuesday, March 8th. And this is our second webinar in partnership with NCSL. We did one last year as well in partnership with NCSL to celebrate International Women's Day. And I'm very proud and honored to be a member of not only AIFL, but our wonderful 12-year partnership with NCSL, and to be on this panel with these amazing women from both the United States and Israel. We will hear from them shortly about some of the challenges and opportunities that they've had in the legislative branches of both countries, what opportunities are presented currently in their roles, and what challenges they're foreseeing for the future. And today's panel will be moderated by Elsa Ben Shimon. Elsa is a wonderful member of our board. She's a partner at Strzok, a law firm in New York. And it's been a pleasure to work with you, Elsa, and the rest of this panel on today's webinar. So Elsa, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our panelists and to moderate today's discussion.
Thank you, Naomi, so much. And thank you to the AIFL and the SCSL for sponsoring this program for the second year in a row. It's a particular pleasure of mine and an honor to be moderating a panel dedicated to women in public office in order to celebrate women and their achievements, especially in the United States. March is Women's History Month. As Naomi noted, on Tuesday, we're going to be celebrating International Women's Day. And it's been a particular pleasure to get to know my esteemed panelists this afternoon. As Naomi mentioned, my name is Elsa Ben Shimon. I am from Israel. I currently live in New York, and I practice law at Strzok & Levin, which is a firm here in New York. I've been involved with the America-Israel Friendship League for close to 3 years now, which is a very proud involvement and membership in the incredible things that the AIFL has done, certainly throughout the pandemic, including this incredible webinar series that we're a part of today. So without further ado, I'd really like to welcome our panelists. And I'm really excited about the conversation that we're going to have today about their special journeys as elected officials in their respective state legislatures, their careers, their challenges, the opportunities that they've had along the way, and the future for women really in politics, in public office, and elected office. So I am joined today by two members of the Israeli Parliament, the Knesset, member of Knesset Yasmin Sachs-Friedman, and member of Knesset Gabi Lasky. Welcome. Good evening in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or wherever you are in Israel at the moment. And I am also joined by two U.S. state legislators and senators, Senate President Karen Spilka of Massachusetts and Senator Beth Meisel of Louisiana. Welcome. We're honored to have you here today, excited to hear about your journeys and what you have done in your respective state legislatures. So we will start by a brief introductory session by each of our panelists, who will tell us a little bit about themselves, their careers, what have brought them to their current roles, issues that they've been passionate about along the way, and some of the successes and achievements that they've experienced. So we'll start off with member of Knesset Yasmin Sachs-Friedman. Member of Knesset Sachs-Friedman, if you could tell us a little bit about your current role at the Knesset. I know you have a very illustrious public sector career prior to your election to the Knesset, and some issues that you've been working on and fighting about, and some of your recent successes, which I've heard there have been a few in the last few weeks. So we would love for you to share them with us.
Okay, so hi everyone. First of all, I have to say that I'm very, very excited to be here tonight, but this is the first time I'm attending in an English panel. So please be sensitive with me. I will do my best with my English, but I don't promise anything. So first of all, I'm a resident of the city of Beersheba, which is a big city in the south of Israel. I born here and I live here all my life. I'm a mother to Bar, which is almost 17 years old, and I'm Sharon's wife. I'm a member of the Knesset for the past 8 months, behalf of the Yesh Atid party. I've been in social activities for many, many years since I remember myself, especially on animal welfare and public housing. I started my public role almost 9 years ago when I ran for the Beersheba City Council for the first time. After a 5-year term, I ran for City Council again, but this time at the top of my own list. I was elected, and actually I was the first female council member to be elected on the top of independent list, which I was very, very proud. I promoted the issue that are important to me, and I have achieved many, many things in a city in the south of Israel. It was very, very hard, but I did it. 8 months ago, I was appointed to a position as a member of the Knesset. I have submitted many laws relating mainly to animal welfare, the achievement of women and foster families. I feel great satisfaction from the role and appreciate every moment I'm there. It's so unusual for a woman from the south of Israel to be in the Knesset. I'm the first one from our big city that was actually in the Knesset, so I have a lot of my shoulders. And I look forward to the future to keep doing the best I can for women, children, and animals. And a little thing that I have to say, that half of the Knesset, which is the parliament of Israel, calling me crazy cat woman. So Gabi is laughing, she knows that. This is because I love animals. I think the biggest achievement until now is the long-term plan for women who are prostitute survivors. These women that nobody cares about, nobody see them. They are not like people, no people. I'm saying it wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm excited. I'm too excited. We're talking here about a woman who no one cares about except for the organization that take care of them. And to get their rights to rehabilitation, they must go every week to Social Security office just to receive the basic help. But the process is so complicated and so long that most of them gave up on it on the way. So I will stop here, and if you want to hear about it more about these laws, so I will keep doing it, but I think my time is up, and I need my heart to slow down.
Thank you so much, Member of Knesset Sachs-Friedman. I will turn it over to Senator Beth Meisel from Louisiana. Senator Meisel, I would love to hear a little bit about your journey. I know that you're a businesswoman in addition to being a senator, and I would like you to share a little bit about your career path and your current role, the challenges that come along with it, and some of the issues that you've been passionate about and have worked hard on for your constituents.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say, I'm just so honored to be on the screen with the people this it's morning in Louisiana. And it was incredible to me to hear Yasmin, if I can call you Yasmin, so much in common. I had a preschool. My businesswoman involvement was I had a preschool where we took care of infants and young children. Did that for about 20 years, and then we moved to a rural area. And in the rural area, it became apparent that the transparency of government and the expectations of the involvement of people in government was totally different from what it had been where I raised my children. I didn't foresee going into politics. I think as many of us, we wait for someone else to step up. And it's only when we realize, wait, it's that person in the mirror that's going to have to do what I'm waiting for somebody else to do. That's when I became involved in politics. I find that women are extraordinarily committed. We are committed and we are energetic. And we bring that with our life experiences to our role. And I think that's confirmed from what I've heard so far. But with those life experiences, you know, I have a strong affection and obligation to the quality of life for children and child protection, education, really just protecting what we owe a child to let them grow into productive, emotionally secure adults. And that's what I've worked on a lot. Currently, I'm doing a lot of work on, we worked with sexual assault and sexual harassment on some Title IX bills. We'd had some issues with our higher ed, really not respecting the process of sexual assault and reporting and enforcement whatsoever. And we worked on that in a joint effort with the legislation. And this year I've got bills on, as Yasmin mentioned, I've got bills for expungement for victims of trafficking. These were not, you know, even willing participants. And they serve time, they have a criminal record and can't rent an apartment, just very basic life issues that have been ruined for them because of the fact that they were trafficked. And I find that a continual thread of serving as a woman is we are cubbyholed as taking care of women's issues. Women's issues as if they're a separate part of humanity from every other kind of person. And very much like the reason we ran, I believe that someone, because I'm a Senate pro tem, I'm the first one, I'm a Republican, the first Republican woman to serve as the president pro tem of the Louisiana Senate. And I'm very aware of stepping up, you know, I'm optimistic about my next step in leadership. And, you know, I was sharing with a friend about, well, everybody thinks I do women's issues. And their response was, and I think all of us feel this, if not you, then who? And I think that's why we are all sitting where we are, because if not us, then who? But I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to questions. So I'll pass it back to you also.
Thank you so much, Senator Meisel. And just to touch upon some of the prior bios, I would love for you to also, Member Koseleski and Senate President Spilka, who will come to next, if you could also talk about some of the challenges. I think Senator Meisel said sometimes women are pigeonholed and people just assume that they're just there for the women's issues. But then, of course, if women wouldn't take care of women's issues, who would? But if you could tell a little more about some of the obstacles you faced when, because you're a woman, we'll touch upon that in a little bit. So I'll turn it over to Member Knesset Gabi Lasky. Member of Knesset Lasky, I know is a human rights lawyer, a very famous lawyer in Israel with a very illustrious career prior to her election to the Knesset. So Member of Knesset Lasky, would love to hear a little bit more about your career, your life, your current role, the issues that you feel passionate about that have made you decide to run for office.
Thank you very much. And I'm very, very honored to be here with you and with this amazing women standing together with me in this Zoom. So I just want to say a little bit about myself. First of all, I was born in Mexico and I made Aliyah, which means I came to live to Israel when I was 15. And now I live in Tel Aviv. I have twins, a boy and a girl, which means that in my house, I have an amazing gender lab, you know, and to see how you treat the same way in general and what comes out of it. It's very, very interesting. Another time we can talk about the conclusions. Well, there are only 12, but there's a long way to go. And I have an MA in law from Tel Aviv University and Northwestern University in Chicago. I entered politics actually the very first day I went to university. And you know, studential politics are very tough. So I started there with the Ratz or Meretz party later on, which is the Social Democratic Party of Israel. Then I became an aide to the Law and Constitution Committee of the Knesset in Israel, which was a member of Meretz party. And there I began to understand a little bit about politics, but there I began to understand the necessity of women being in the table. You cannot talk about women without hearing women and being women part of the decision-taking process. In that time, they were constituting the basic law of human dignity and freedom, which in Israel, we don't have a constitution. We only have a set of basic laws. And because of differences, of ideological differences with their religious parties, in order to pass this basic law, the Knesset or the committee decided to leave out the equality clause, which means that women were left out of the table. And actually, there were no women in this committee. So no one really fought for the equality clause. And I know that if there would have been women there, then there would be a completely different situation regarding that. So that was the first really challenge that I faced, and then I understood from there. Later on, I became the first woman to be Secretary General of Peace Now, which is the largest NGO organization in Israel dealing with peace issues, which until then, it was only, was mostly men that came out of the army. And, you know, in Israel, which is a very militaristic society, then, you know, coming out from the army and what you're, and what you've done there gives you a right to speak about peace and war, while there is a side which is, you know, the civilian side, which is maybe the most important one, no one dealt with. So I became the first woman to be General Secretary of this organization. And from there, after that, I started working as a human rights lawyer, dealing mostly in freedom of speech and freedom of demonstration issues, whether in the civilian courts or in the military courts in the occupied territories. And again, I was one of the only, maybe the only woman dealing in the military courts, being a lawyer there. Then I became, as Yasmin, I became a member of I was elected to be a councilwoman of the Tel Aviv municipality. There I was chairwoman of the Gender Equality Committee, and I was the aide of the municipality regarding sustainability issues. There is a lot of questions regarding gender and sustainability, which really we have to deal with and talk about, because it's a very important issue. But I have to say, one of the things that I really I'm proud of is that I made the municipality to adopt, as the first municipality in the world, the 1325 UN resolution regarding defense of women and putting women in places where you take around the table where you take the decision-making process. And And from there, I became also, as Yasmin 8 months ago, a member of Knesset for the Merits Party. I am a member of the Law and Constitution Committee, which is, closing this circle that I began there as an aide, and now I'm member of the committee, and I will never allow again that no equality clause will be passed. There will be laws without equality clauses. I am a member of the Gender Equality Committee, and I'm also a member of the Defense Committee. I take part in the Defense Committee, which is also very important. Until women took places in this committee, there was a long time where only men were part of this committee, and I think that is one of the important parts that we have been dealing with for a long time. So besides the fact that it's important for me to bring women to the table to make part of the process, I deal a lot with peace and war issues, human rights, and in Israel, I don't know if all of you know, but in Israel, there is no real separation between religion and state. So in Israel, we don't have civil marriages at all, which means that all marriages are done by the rabbinate, which makes it very difficult. There is, again, no equality for women in this process. So I actually, through some NGOs, I make wedding ceremonies which are equalitarian, where we bring, women and men or women and women, or men and men, to this ceremony, which gives, again, an equality in the ceremony. So I deal with that, and I deal with a lot of green issues, and of course, women issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member of Knesset Lasky. Last but not least, I would like to turn it to Massachusetts Senate President Karen Spilka. It's an honor to have you here today, Senate President Spilka. If you can, much like our other panelists, tell us a little bit about your career. I know you're formerly a lawyer as well as member of Knesset Lasky, and a social worker. And I would love to hear, or the panel would love to hear more about your career. Specifically, if you could also tell us a little bit about your role as Senate President, which is probably a little different than a regular senator role. And we would love to understand the differences, the challenges, and the responsibility that come along with that. And I understand you've also led the Senate throughout the pandemic. That must have had its own unique set of challenges. And also a little bit to touch upon, this duality of being a woman in such a high-powered position, how you got there, and the issues that you feel strongly about and that you've promoted. Thank you. Senate President Spilka, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. I muted it so my two rescue dogs would not bother the other speakers. I'm also an animal lover. And I do want to mention that your English is a lot better than my Hebrew ever would be. So thank you. I'm Karen Spilka. I was born and brought up in New York, actually. Moved here after I graduated college and waitressed for a while. And then I found a job counseling children and families. I was brought up in a Jewish family and really was brought up believing in the beliefs of tikkun olam, repairing the earth, making it a better place than what I found it, as well as tzedakah, doing good deeds or charity, and the notion of justice was very strong through my grandparents in particular and my parents. My family members had a very large impact on me. And of course, growing up, I did not realize it. My father was in the Army during World War II, helped liberate Buchenwald concentration camp. And I believe the trauma that he endured and experienced in that, that he was, it haunted him the rest of his life. And the fact that he was unable to get good mental health treatment impacted my whole family growing up, and he experienced mental illness. So of course, the rest of our family experienced it along with him. My mother was a social worker, helping people, and seeing her do this helped me to come to the realization that when I was in college, I wanted to go into social work as well. My sister, my younger sister, just a couple of years younger than me, had Down syndrome. She passed away a few years ago. I was her legal guardian for the last 30 years of her life and moved her from New York up to Massachusetts so I could watch over her. So it's not a surprise that I became a social worker in the long run when you think of that background of that family. I went to social work school, moved to Massachusetts. I did not know a single person in Massachusetts. As I mentioned, waitress, found a job counseling children and families, decided I wanted to go to law school for juvenile justice. I went to law school, but came out as a labor and employment attorney, and ultimately combined my background in social work and law and became an arbitrator, mediator, and specialized in conflict resolution. So needless to say, I would train people in active listening skills and mediation. Those skills, I believed, really helped me as a senator, as a legislator, and especially as Senate president, to become Senate president and to be a more effective and successful Senate president. Collectively, my family and background, when I first decided to run for the legislature, I ran for my local school board, school committee, and learned about the way the state of Massachusetts funded education. And I felt like it was really not adequate, not equitable. So I formed a statewide coalition, ran for the State House of Representatives at first when an opening came up. I had never thought about doing it. It was literally the day that the opening came up that I thought, I'm going to run because I can fight for more equity and fairness in education funding as a member of the legislature from inside than from outside. I didn't need to persuade anybody, myself if I was inside. But you clearly need to persuade all your colleagues to get to where you want to be. So I've been a real advocate, I believe, to support people of all abilities in Massachusetts. Mental health is a really big issue, making sure that people can get the mental health services when they need it, and mental health parity between mental health and physical health. In fact, the Senate recently in November passed a major overhaul of our mental health bill. We put a lot of money that we just got from the federal government towards workforce for mental health. So those are a lot of things that I work on. And economic development as a state. But I've fought real hard for and successfully passed a statewide paid family and medical leave program, pay equity legislation for women, getting more women on boards and higher up in corporations. Right now, the two areas that I am focusing on are early education and care, particularly on the heels of COVID. So many women lost their jobs and are having a hard time getting back to work for lack of quality, accessible early education and care, and we need to overhaul our system. And then climate change is another issue that I believe we all need to focus on. I I believe that women have to work harder, be smarter, and put more time in to get to the same place as men do. Unfortunately, that I believe that still is in effect. When I first ran for the legislature, I was literally told by some of the men in my area and in the state, it's not your time. It's not your time. And I thought, well, then whose time is it? You know, I mean, it was, yeah, well, of course, it was one of their male friends' time. And he ran against me, and needless to say, I prevailed. And a lot of that had to do, I believe I worked harder and was networking better. But I think, you know, women do bring some really important skills to this job. My style as Senate president, there are 40 state senators in Massachusetts. We have a House of Representatives of 160 members and 40 state senators. As Senate president, I advocate for the needs of my district, but I'm also responsible and need to take a bird's eye view of what's happening across the state and what legislation needs to be prioritized in the Senate and what other senators want. And I need to make sure that their voices are heard. Having a background in conflict resolution, I believe I'm very collaborative. During COVID, one of the first things I did was I created a COVID working group. And I had another senator lead it up, prior social worker, great listening skills that she has, and people skills. And there were other like smaller working groups, and everybody fed ideas and worked on the issues that were important. So we continued, even though we did not meet in the State House, we continued via the Zoom and whatever, to get a lot of really critical legislation, major pieces of legislation through. So I look at our finances and help with the budget for the state, and economic development and all of the areas. But a lot of it is just really active, I believe, active listening to the 39 other senators, whether they be Democrat or Republican. I'm a Democrat. The Senate is predominantly Democrat, but I work very closely with the Republicans in the Senate as well, because I think that it's really important that everybody's voice be heard.
Thank you so much, Senate President Spilka. Actually, I think your last note is a great segue into a question that I want to turn to Yasmin, which is Senate President Spilka talked a lot about her characteristics that she thinks helped her succeed, which maybe sound like they could be common to a lot of women, which is her ability to listen and her ability to collaborate. So I wanted to ask you, member of Knesset Sax Friedman, do you see in your role certain unique qualities that you have, maybe that are just unique to you, or you think because you're a woman, that help you in your current role at the Knesset and is a differentiator from maybe the way that men conduct themselves in a similar role?
I want to say yes, and that's it. They are women. Absolutely. I want to tell you something about my own way, okay? When I ran for them in my hometown for the council, many men was approached to me and wanting to join to my party, but on one condition: we are going to lead. You can't lead. We are going to lead. And I needed every day to fight myself, wanting to punch them. But I was very, very patient. And I think women don't have the ego that men have. I see it every day when I go to a meeting with my male assistants, and I talk to a very senior person and very high occupations, and they are not talking to me. They are talking to him, and he's my assistant. at first I was very, very angry, but now I'm just laughing. I'm saying, hi, I'm here. I ask the question. I make the rules. Please talk to me. Talk to my eyes, not to my, it's just my assistant. He's very bright. He's very good looking. He's very funny, but I'm the one you should talk to. So
it's insane. It's just,
yes.
it's really, it's incredible that it still happens, but
Yeah.
I think that it's a long road ahead.
I'm sure every woman here had
Has experienced it.
And before, when I told you that everyone calls me, not everyone, but most of the men people that called me crazy cat woman only because I take care of animals, I'm not sure they would call that to a man, because there's not a crazy cat man. Okay, so every day we meet people that you need to take a breath, count to 5, and go on. Every day we meet women, and me and Gabby and all great women from all the Knesset, and we think together, what should we do better? If it's for women, for young moms that are that are working the Knesset and they have young children. My child is 17 years old, but they have small children. Also, Gabi, or twins are 12. They need their mother, and we're working a lot of hours, no sleeping at all. Especially this week is going to be very hard. Gabi is there, and she's going to return to her home on Thursday, I think. Okay, I'm gonna be there tomorrow until Thursday. It's crazy. We need to think about young mother that want to keep their jobs and to legislate laws, and only women can do this. So
thank you. I want to turn the same question to Senator Meisel and to Member of Knesset Lasky. If you can tell us some of the unique qualities that you think you bring to the table that are maybe different than your male counterparts and that have helped you in your success.
I think it's interesting, and I enjoyed what Senator Spilka said, because it's we each have different life experiences. We have different gifts that I don't think sometimes we don't see those gifts until things start happening and you realize that people came together in a different way because of how that whole opportunity was constructed, and women are unique in that. I think a lot of people see us as non-threatening. We don't play the game that, frankly, I think a lot of men, they enjoy playing the game more than trying to get the outcome. And I believe we're outcome centered. I'm chair of the Women's Caucus. And to give an example of we have, it's just as different as the women on this call. The Women's Caucus is urban, rural, black, white, Democrat, Republican, or no party. Yet, if we work it right, we can find issues that we can align in. And when a group of women of all these mixed belief systems come together and support one issue, we could do anything. You know, nobody is going to come against that group of women because there's no weak spot. And I find that that's something that as women, we're able to do. We are able to unite dissimilar interests for the solution of the good. And if anything, I think what we do is shortchange it by not doing bigger things that way. We have an opportunity to expand it. You know, I keep telling the Women's Caucus, yeah, we need to look at breast cancer, but we really need to talk about prostate cancer. Shake it up. Let the men see that we care about everybody's issues, not just narrow women's issues, even though we know the majority of my state are women. and only 18% of the people in the legislature are women. So we've got a long way to go, but I think, working together, we can get it done.
Thank you. Member Knesset Lasky, do you want to give us a little bit about your take on this question?
Yes. Thank you, Senator Meisel. I agree with everything you said. And I just want to add a little bit. Women are measured by their abilities, capabilities, and experience. And men are measured by their possible potential, which is really completely different. Before we're elected, we have to prove ourselves and we have to come with a sack of achievements. And men, can just say, well, I'll be very good at it. It's just really different. So when women really arrives at an important political post or whatever, we really come prepared. We have a lot of things that we've done before, and we can hear it just with these three amazing women that spoke what they have achieved before they were elected, and so many men just come and they're elected with not having gone through all this process. So that's one of the things that, first of all, it's not a female quality to be prepared, but women are much more prepared when they are elected than men are. And that is something that we really have to know. And another important thing is that women, because of ego or because we're caregivers or because so many things, we like to work together. We like to hear the other. We like to have a second opinion. We love to work together. And then when our legislation comes out, it is a lot more thoughtful. It is more detailed because we heard all the possibilities and all the problematics that can come up from the things that we're doing. And there is another saying that says that those who walk alone arrive fast, but those who walk together arrive farther on, because that's what we're doing. We're walking together, and that's why we're arriving farther than those who walk alone. And that, I don't know, again, if there's a women qualities, but certainly, as I have learned along the way, women tend to work together much more than men do. And that is only, that only makes our decision-making better and wider, with a much wider angle. It's like women see things in a wider angle, and, I'm not saying that all of us do, and men are just more into detail. So we give answers to much more wider issues, and we take into consideration much a larger part of the population than when men want to introduce a bill that takes care or of one issue. So that's why our bills take longer, because if we're dealing with healthcare, or we're dealing with juvenile protection, or we're doing with how to again, as Senator Meisel said, we don't take into consideration only women problems. We take into consideration everybody's problems, and that's why it takes much longer. But in the end, I think that many times the results that are thought or created by a group of women, sometimes or most of the time, as I have seen here, are more detailed and are better.
Senate President Spilka, I'm curious, what is the percentage of women represented in the Massachusetts Senate, and how have you seen representation change during the course of your career?
Unfortunately, it has not changed as fast as I would have liked, and I believe it should have. As I mentioned, there are 40 senators, 13 are women. In the House of Representatives, 160 members, 47 are women. Interesting. There have been 221 women elected to the Massachusetts state legislature, both the House and the Senate, and over 20,000 men.
Wow.
Now, when I first heard that, I thought, oh my God, that must be a mistake. It's not. You know, we're one of the oldest legislatures in the country, but over 20,000 men and 221 women. So we haven't come as far as I would like. I am number 27. And you know, we're still working at it. So, you know, we have tried. There are some systems in place, some organizations that help train women to campaign and to run for office, and the ground level of more of a local position in a municipality to then move up to the state house and beyond. We have never had in Massachusetts an elected woman governor. I do believe this November we will have a woman elected governor, and that's very exciting. Yes, yes. Again, you know, it doesn't guarantee issues will be heard, but certainly increases the likelihood. And I agree, women do take a broader picture. And like with the paid family and medical leave, when we were trying to pass that, it wasn't just for women, it was men could take it as well, depending upon for their children or parents or whatever, or themselves, you know, and for companies, it made them recruit workers better as well by having that as a policy. So it's not just a woman's issue, it's a family issue, it's an economic development issue, and so many other things. So, you know, we're still working on it. You know, I have a mentoring program. When I first came to the legislature, I started a mentoring program. I was chair that year of the Caucus of Women Legislators in Massachusetts, and started a mentoring program for new women in the State House in recognition that when I came in, I had no idea what I was doing and would have really appreciated having somebody to turn to ask basic questions, you know, how to file amendments or where to go to get a good lunch, you know, or whatever else it might be. So I started a mentoring program in the Senate for all new members when they come in, whether it be in the initial, when most people are elected, or if there's a special election and they come in, they get assigned a mentor to help out. And I think that is really important. And even interns that we have, I try to get some women in college interns, et cetera, to get them involved and interested in government and politics and public service. They don't have to run for an office, but public service they can have an impact on as well.
Thank you. Senator Meisel, what's the percentage of representation of women in your Senate? I think you mentioned 18%. You're on mute.
Oh, 18%. So, you know, as Senate President Spilka is lamenting what they've got twice as many as we have. But we have had a woman governor. We have done that. So
and do you find, and I'm going to segue into another question. I know that member of Knesset Lasky and member of Knesset Sachs Friedman, also I know that specifically in Israel, the government is now, I think, has the highest number of ministers in its history that are women. I think representation at the Knesset is also higher in terms of women representation. Do you find, Senator Meisel, that having more women actually changes the discourse and the issues that are being discussed? I think I'm getting some chatter here on the chat box with some questions saying, well, when there are women legislators, are they focused more on what is quote unquote softer issues, women's issues, as opposed to what men typically focus on? And so I'm curious, given, again, 18% is lamentable. I think you said women are over 50% of the Louisiana population. Yeah.
I think what tends to happen is that women are more gravitate to more of the quality of life issues. And frankly, it's not that there's not a capability on the fiscal issues and what are considered the harder issues. In the Louisiana Senate and House, all the staff that runs all the committees are women. It's incredible. You see the committee chair, but everybody giving him his information and answering all the questions are women. Our Senate secretary and the secretary in the House are both women, which is unheard of. First time that I've ever seen happen in history so you're seeing women in leadership roles, but I think it goes back again to, we do what nobody else will do. And that involves the quality of life issues, maybe things that men aren't really in a conversation about, or concerns that are not brought to a man will be more likely to be brought to a woman representative or senator. And being the nature of women, we're going to try to do something about it. That's how we work.
Member of Knesset Lasky or Member of Knesset Sachs-Friedman, do you want to touch on the changes that you're experiencing at the Knesset now that there are more women? I think you did mention some of the issues and the kind of broader bird's eye view that women take, but do you also see a change in tone and discourse and just by having more women in the Knesset?
I will let Gabby to answer it, but I just want to say that there are 9 female ministresses and 10 female director general of government ministries, which is it's very new and it's a great achievement. And I heard the rumor said that the 11th one is on the way, so I'm very happy. And I will let Gabby answer the rest.
Thank you, Yasmin. One of the things that it's important to say is that actually women are getting more and more involved also in those, in those harder issues. So we have now a very large number of women, both in the Finance Committee and in the committee of in the Defense Committee. And and not only that means that not only we're involving ourselves in those issues, but our perspective even to those issues is a little bit different and higher. For example, in the Finance Committee, we're talking a lot about hiring minimum wage. And so it's not only that we're talking about the regular issues, the hard issues, but we're also bringing a female perspective into those issues. And also in the Defense Committee, which are just came out before we started our Zoom, there in this specific meeting, we were more women than men. And so it gives us it gives a different angle to start to speak about defense, because it's not that we don't take, as Senator Meisel said, again, I'm quoting you, is that if something is not taken care of, we're going to take care of it because of it's important. But also when we take care of things, then we put it in the table different angles that nobody talked about them before. So now we're putting in the table of the Defense Committee other things. I just talked before about the 1325 UN resolution. So we're talking about that when we're talking about war, or we're talking about Palestinians and the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. We also talk about the rights of women. How do we defend them? And how do we give good quality of life to those young women that are in the midst of conflict? So then, well, we talk about these issues in the hardcore issues, then we're changing them, and we're changing the mindset of those men that have been involved in those issues for such a long time, but never looked a little bit aside. So this is something is happening, and the presence of women is imperative to change the way we deal even with the hardcore issues.
Yeah, it sounds like it really brings about a fundamental sort of paradigm shift in the discourse and the issues that are being raised, which is very important. We unfortunately don't have much time left. I could talk to you guys for hours and hear more, but I would like to close on one final question, which is also interesting to me to hear from you, which is if you were asked to share one piece of advice with a young woman who is considering public service, running for office, perhaps to a legislature position or other position in public sector, is there advice that you would be able to share, maybe advice that has been useful to you or given to you or from just your experience, something that you can pass on? So I will start with the Senate President Spilka, and then you can take it at whichever order you'd like.
I would say follow your heart and do not listen to others, especially men. But to follow your heart, if you want to go after something, whether it be working on a campaign or running for office yourself, do it. Seize the opportunity. It may not come up again, or at least not for a while. The worst that could happen is you don't end up getting there the first time, but you'll learn a lot. And then the next time you go after it, you'll have a better shot at it. And that's it, basically. Follow your heart, follow your passion, and don't let anybody talk you out of it. Because you're capable. I mean, women, as mentioned before, women think, well, maybe I won't run for this. I don't have this experience, or I'm not capable. Men do not question themselves. They just do it. And women, I think, are beginning to do it more, but they need to follow their passion and run and believe in themselves as well.
Thank you.
I would say be stubborn and don't be afraid of failure. That's it. Go for it.
That's great. Senator Meisel?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, you ladies, I'm loving you. I'm loving what you said, because that's exactly what I was gonna say, is follow your passion. I would really recommend, if you're anybody that's thinking about it, to attend local meetings, because you may not even know you have a passion. But if you go to a local meeting, or we have parishes here, if you go to a county or parish council and you observe what you think would be the level of engagement, you just go and you're going to see maybe a passion that you didn't even know you felt. So just participate, and absolutely don't back off.
Thank you. Member of Knesset Lasky?
Well, besides all the things that all the other amazing women just said, and I agree with all of them, I would say aim high and always be prepared, because they're going to be looking for you when you fall, when you don't know an answer, when you don't know how to explain yourself. So always come prepared. You prepared. You will always be more prepared than they are. You will not be afraid, because you always have an answer, because you aim high and you're always prepared.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This has been incredible. I really can't thank you enough for sharing your experiences, your careers, your passions with this group. And it's really inspiring. I think it's inspiring to me. It's hopefully been inspiring to the rest of our audience. I mean, I love the optimism, the onward, the keep going, the perseverance, the belief in women. I think women supporting each other is also extremely important. It sounds like you all have done that, and also mentoring young people coming through the ranks. So that's also incredible, and sharing your positions and your power. So I just want to close by wishing everyone a very happy International Women's Day, which is being celebrated on Tuesday, March 8th. I hope, hopefully, thinking about what's going on in the greater world, that things get better for everyone. Women are certainly suffering a lot from the current conflict in the Ukraine. So I hope and I wish peace and quiet and calm for everyone very soon. Just using my very last minute, I would like to just quickly mention that next Sunday, March 13th, the AIFL will be hosting another webinar, this time with an amazing company from Israel, Solar Edge. It's one of Israel's largest companies leading smart alternative energy solutions, created by 5 friends who came out of the Israel Defense Forces. I think this crisis is showing us yet again how energy is important and energy dependence is an issue. So I hope everyone tunes in next March 13th here on Facebook and other media. Again, thank you so much to everyone, Senator Meisel, Senate President Spilka, members of Knesset, Gabi Lasky, and Yasmin Sachs-Friedman. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks, Naomi and AIFL, for making this possible. And of course, a shout out to the NCSL for partnering with us on this initiative. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.